Welcome to Play by Players, an MLSPA podcast. Now here's your host, former MLS player, Bobby Boswell.
All right, hey everybody. Thanks for joining in today. Joined by a special guest. For those of you that are a fan of the beautiful game and skills and tricks and youthful exuberance, you'll be happy to see who I have today. We've got Tommy Thompson on here. I'm Bobby Boswell, BB. We got TT on it, not Taylor Twellman, the new blood, Tommy Thompson. So, Tommy, thank you for coming on today. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I know when we talked about doing a Zoom type video that you were the first person that came on. I think part of it's because you've been so proactive in this quarantine time. I think you've always been active on social media and with your personal life, but I think especially now people are really getting a chance to consume what you're putting out there. And tell us about, kind of what you've been doing lately, skills challenges. And, I noticed your shirt, you've been wearing this and a lot of the stuff you do. Tell us about what you have going on.
Yeah, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind. I think the training moratorium took everyone by surprise. I remember we had planned to take a charter to Philly, and we walked in the locker room, and all of a sudden we realized that this was going to be a lot more serious than any of us had thought. So I went home, called my dad, and from that phone call, an idea came about where we started to realize that, wow, this is going to be serious. And we got the potential to be forced to stay at home for weeks or months, whatever it happens to be. And speaking to my dad, we were talking, and we realized, well, if we can't train, there's going to be all kinds of kids that can't train. And so that's where the wheels started turning. And we thought, this was, the day of or the day after we realized we couldn't, the Earthquakes wouldn't be able to train anymore. We thought, you know what the kids are going to need is a training program that they can do at home. And I thought, okay, when I was a kid, I was very inspired by players like Ronaldinho or Messi or Ronaldo. And I remember I'd watch YouTube videos. I would watch the Jogo Bonito videos. I'd watch all kinds of videos where they're doing tricks. And as a kid, you just fall in love with that. And whenever you see something like that, you want to learn how to replicate it. And that started with the YouTube videos from Ronaldinho. It continued to impact me because my dad would do things at his soccer camps called the trick of the day, where he'd challenge everyone at the camp to do a trick. And if at the end of the camp you're able to do it, you get like a Pepsi or you get a pizza, whatever it happens to be. And so my dad and I came up with the idea of doing, all right, we got to do is a virtual trick of the day. Let's get that started. Let's get kids engaged and let's see where it goes. So I chopped up some old clips from when I was a kid, pushed something out, called it the Stay at Home Soccer Challenge, and the MLS retweeted it. And next thing I know, there's 100,000 people watching these clips, and kids across the country sending me in footage that day of them actually completing the challenges. And from that point, I'm like, all right, we got to keep this thing going.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I'm a big lanky center back, right? And I don't have, I was saying when I grew up, I watched a lot of those videos. I grew up on the original Ronaldo, and I loved his skills. And I had like one or two tricks I could do. I could never do the around the world. I'm watching videos where, you're doing it 4 or 5 times. And it's crazy just to see all these kids that they're all able to do that now because it's about their relationship with the ball. And it was funny because when we talked about this last week about having you on, I went through some stuff and I said, I'm going to send this guy, maybe I'll send him a video of a move I do that not many people could do. And I think it was like a couple days later, you posted it and you were doing it when you were like 14 or something, or 12 years old. And I was like, it was kind of defeating because it was like, that was my one thing, that was the one thing I had. And this guy, he figured it out on his own, years ago. But it's been really cool. And I think that, watching these videos, these kids are so much more skillful now than guys were when I was growing up. How they're all more skillful than me now. But Do you feel like you're kind of leading this movement, where there haven't been a lot of American guys, maybe Kyle Martino, Stuart Holden a little bit, but do you feel like you're leading this movement for not only the professional guy, but the professional guy that's got all the cool skills that the kids want to see when you come to their school?
Yeah, so that was the idea behind it. I'm thinking, okay, if Ronaldinho is able to do it for me and he's playing across the world, he's from a different continent, maybe I can do this for some young American soccer players in the United States. And so that's been the premise behind it. And it's been really interesting because, like you said, it's not ever been a staple in the American game. But Matias Almeida coming to our team, it's been such an interesting experience. All of a sudden, receiving these South American influences, because that's how I fell in love with the game. And I didn't put it together until a couple months into the season. But I mean, immediately I got along really well with him, and I got along really well with the players that he brought in, guys like Christian Espinoza or Daniel Vega. And ever since I was 18, I juggle before every game. I juggle before every practice just because it's something I did. It wasn't because I wanted to show off. It wasn't because I wanted people to watch me. I just did it because I've been doing it since I was 10 years old. And the coolest thing happened where Christian Espinoza came in to one of the first training sessions we had after he signed with us. And he started doing the exact same thing that I've been doing for years. He started juggling and he started kicking the ball up in the air really high, and then he tried to control it and to keep juggling. Then he kicked up really high and he tried to control it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's my spirit. Like that's what I do. And I think from that point on, I realized that there's this South American influence on me, and it's all kind of came together right now with this coaching staff. And now I'm trying to share that with more young players in the United States.
Yeah, and you brought up your coach, and one of the more interesting things I saw this week was he got on IG Live with you, and y'all did. I mean, how long was that? Was it 30, 45 minutes, or maybe even longer? I mean,
yeah, it was an hour.
An hour. You did an IG Live with a guy that's learning English, and you're learning Spanish. I mean, y'all are both better at English and Spanish probably than I am, vice versa, what I mean by that. And I just was so kind of, this is so new school, right? And I think you've got, like you said, you found a guy that, a coaching staff that embraces your personality and what you want to do off the field, right? Because for a long time, man, it was not like that. And there are still a lot of coaches in this league that they don't like the idea of guys having any life outside of the game. And this guy, I mean, I've been following him since they signed him. I followed him when he was at Chivas. It's weird. Like, I don't know him. I just want him to win because I like the way that his players, like, it seems like they love him, and it seems like you particularly love him. And, first question was, were you nervous doing that video with him?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, this all came together this week. I didn't know any Spanish before he came. And when he arrived in January, we all went to Cancun. And on that trip, I basically learned Spanish to where I was able to do interviews when I came back. Not full interviews, but I was able to speak well enough to communicate my thoughts. And then since then, I've just been continuing to study. And it's culminated into that 1 hour long IG Live to where we're actually speaking, no translator, no anything. And he actually had just asked me to do it on, I think it was Monday. It was just through WhatsApp. He's like, do you want to go on Instagram Live? And I was just like, yeah, sure. And then that was it. There's no type of preparation. I didn't know what he was going to ask me or how we're going to do it. It was just like, all right, me and Matias are going on IG Live. Let's see what happens. And I think that's what he's about. He's about honesty. He's about authenticity. And he doesn't want something to be rehearsed, or he doesn't want any type of Hollywood influence on it. He just wants people to see two guys from across the world trying. I think that's a special type of outlook.
Yeah, no, he's incredible. I've talked to Wando about him. Wando always says he stresses his music and treating people the right way. And it seems. I just thought, like I said, I was blown away. I don't think I know a single coach that I ever played for that. And I loved a lot of the coaches I played for. I played for Dominic. I know you played for Dominic. It was just one of those. It was odd to me that I thought they had to coerce him into doing it. Now you're telling me it was him. It was his idea. So that's even cooler. But it was great because he seemed like he cared about your answers, but he was also, grilling you on, give me more, that you're not giving me the answer I want. And it was fun, man. So I'm really happy. Hopefully it's kind of interesting because it seemed like y'all had so much optimism going into this year, you in particular. Tell me, first of all, tell me about fitness testing coming in, what you did to get ready for that, and then how you've handled kind of the excitement of the start of the year to you've been put on a hiatus now where you might have to reload that process.
Yeah, so it's my 7th year in the league, so I've got a good off-season routine down to where I want to make sure I'm coming in fit. And something that I wanted to be clear on is that I have fun. I do dance videos. I do tricks. I'm all about that kind of stuff, but I'm also very serious about coming in prepared. And I've won our beep test for the last 2 years, and that's to make sure that there's a clear distinction between having fun and working hard. And I think that beep test is something that's universally understood, where it's basically run until you can't run anymore. And so part of this South American flair that I've experienced and has really livened my spirit has also motivated me to really continue to push to almost add that traditional American hardworking spirit to it as well. Because I want to be on both sides of that spectrum, because I think there's amazing qualities in each type of each type of influence. And then obviously to have it then all come to a screeching halt, it was months of preparation in the off season, and it takes a lot out of you. And all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, now the season's starting. Now I don't have to go through that again. It's going to take another year. I have 9 months of enjoying being in shape, being in a routine. And so to have that taken from you after you just spent so long getting into the best shape of your life, of your career, whatever it happens to be, to have it taken away after 2 games is tough. But I always try to keep perspective, especially in the most difficult times. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are struggling in a lot of different ways. And so I remind myself of that. And so instead of focusing on what I could be missing out on, I then just tried to put all of that energy into helping out kids the best way I knew how to. And that was to create a YouTube channel to have a skills program for kids to do at home while they're not allowed to practice with their teams.
All right, that's awesome. What I don't want to make it all serious. I noticed going back through some of your Instagram things, you've never been shy of taking a photo and posting it with your shirt off. What are you doing to stay in shape in this downtime? I mean, are you still finding a way to work out every day and grind?
Yeah, so we have a makeshift gym in our garage, which is nice. The team was able to get, because we're locked out of the facilities, so the team was able to give us some equipment. So I've been using that because I live with JT Marcinkowski and Nick Lima and Jackson Ewell as well. So that's been great for us to be able to. We have a 2-car garage, so we just take the 2 cars out when we're working out, and then we go in there, we lift, we pretend like everything's normal for a little bit, and then we put the cars back in.
How do y'all decide who gets to park in that bad boy?
Well, it's actually somewhat simple because Nick's got a big truck, so he can't fit.
Okay.
And then there's also a parking garage underneath, so we rotate. So there's no real problem with the parking in this area, which is nice.
Well, I'll just say you're a young guy and that you're 24, but you've got some tenure in this league. You've been around. For those that don't know, he was the first homegrown signing for San Jose. back when you were 18. Did I get that?
Yeah, 18. Yeah.
18.
Wow, you
So
know your stuff. I'm impressed.
yeah, no, well, I've been following you for a while. You're kind of one of those guys. You kind of hate them if you're playing against them, but I feel like I would love to have you on my team. I love optimistic guys. I love guys with some swagger. And then I just think, from the guys I know that know you and played with you, they all like you a lot. So, that, and I base my opinion on your peers. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that.
but no, I just think it's funny because you're probably younger than some of these guys, but you got more tenure, and that's always an interesting dynamic in a locker room.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you feel like you're still a young guy? Or do you feel like you're a veteran, or do you feel like you're both?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. How would you classify? At what point in your career do you become a veteran? Say you take age out of it. We're just talking about
4 years.
4 years. Yeah, so I'm on my 7th.
Yep.
So I was technically a veteran at 22, but there's still something you got to learn, and that comes with being just an older human being as well. Just being 18 years old, and I would say you don't adapt as quickly as a 22-year-old rookie coming into the league.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, I'd say I got a little bit of both. I think I'm more on the side of veteran now. I'd say when I was 21, 22, 23, having like 4 or 5 years underneath my belt, I was a little bit more in between. But I mean, now that I've been in a locker room with adults for so long, I feel like I understand how people treated me when I was 18. Because now looking at the younger kids,
Yep.
you do see the difference, and that's where everything comes full circle.
Yeah, and your story's a bit different too, in that the guys nowadays are coming straight out of high school. You did a year at Indiana. I don't really want to go too far into that. But when I was talking to some of the people at the PA when we talked about doing these, I'm going to lead. It's a leading question. I talked about they know that I collect weird memorabilia, and I wanted the guys that came on to do it, but I didn't think it would be too hard to get guys to find it. But this is my Freddie Adu. I think it's called a Russian doll, right? Where this thing goes.
Yeah.
So this is something I picked up when I lived in DC. And the reason I bring that up, I actually talked to Freddie today. Just kind of, he reached out to me randomly about something else. And I bring Freddie up because, there's two sides to the Tommy Thompson equation here, right? There's this lovable guy that puts himself out there. And then you've got the soccer player, and I call it the soccer writers, right? These guys that they don't look at you as a person, in my opinion. They just go out and they say, what are the results? And it's interesting that you would hear or read some of the articles that I've read about you, where you're talking about a 24-year-old kid, right? I started at 21, 22, really. So, and I played 13 seasons. So if you were to say you're at 24. If you played 11 more seasons, that would be where I ended, and you would be in 20 something years as a pro, right? But yet these people want to quantify you, and they love to make these comparisons. And I bring Freddie up because Freddie was the same way, right? He was this young phenom, and the guy's doing commercials with Pele, and they're saying he's the next Pele, and it's he's going to be the next greatest player of all time. And I feel like I read some of the articles written about you, and I feel kind of the same thing I feel about when I read about Freddie, right? It's just it's these people's expectations are so much higher, and I bet none of them are higher than yours or your family's expectations. Right. But at the same time, how do you look at where you're at, with what some of these people are saying versus how much further you have to go and the opportunity you still have in front of you?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good question. It's a long answer. I mean, there's so much that goes into that. So I remember the days where I was 18 and I was starting up top with Wando, and then people are writing about how I could be the next, like, so-and-so for the U.S. national team doing this, and this, right? And then all of a sudden the next year, things change, locker room changes, and then you have to adapt, right? But I think that's what's so dangerous for young players these days, is that there's so much hype with the media, the writers. Guys can get in their own head about it, and they can start thinking that they're someone that they're not at that time. Maybe they will be that, whatever people are saying that they are eventually. But you have to learn a lot of things. You have to learn a lot of things. And I think what I learned a ton after that initial, I don't want to say like explosion on the scene. That sounds a little bit dramatic, but coming into the league at 18 and starting for an extended period of time was significant, especially when there wasn't that many players playing in the league back then. What I learned after all of a sudden having to go back to the drawing board a little bit over the next year, especially, was that you can't have anyone write your script for you. And that's what these writers do. I don't blame them. It's their job. It's what makes them money, and it's also what's good for the sport. And so the way I see it, you want to write about me, write whatever you want. But all of a sudden, what the problem is that these players are reading it, thinking that all of a sudden, since this writer is saying this, then my coach is going to do that. Like, no. That's two different worlds completely. And it goes on both sides of it, right? Because there's players where writers will say that this guy's the next big thing, and he's not. But then there's other players where writers target and they say this guy's not good, but the coach thinks he's good. So whatever side you end up being on, you can't listen to it. Like, whether it's good or bad, what I read from people outside of my organization that I'm playing for, whether it's good or bad, it's got the same value. And I learned that when I was 19 years old. And then I've kept that mentality for the rest of my career. And I think it's what's allowed me to be a part of an organization for so long with so many different coaches. I mean, I've had 7 head coaches now, including the interims.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
And so if all of a sudden I'm letting someone on the outside, and like, I appreciate the fact that they thought I was going to do this or that, whatever it happened to be. But if that's going to now cause me to treat my coach differently or to expect something from my coach because of what a writer says, I mean, that's how you could fall into a bad standing with an organization very quickly.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you got a good head on your shoulders. Do you attribute that to your old man? I grew up in Tampa, so I was born the year that he signed with the Rowdies, but
right.
But that was the first team I went and watched play, and I know he was a player there, and then he also played in the USISL, I think, which was I got to see them play. They had Tempe Cyclones had a team when the NASL folded, so I go way back with my fanship. He was your first coach, right?
Oh yeah, he was.
Do you
coached
lean
me
on him
all throughout my childhood?
Do you lean on him for things like tough times?
Absolutely. And it's funny because the way we've gone about it is so different. Like I remember when I was 12 years old and I started dancing, I would just come home after practice and I would just put on our boombox and I would just dance like in the garage. It'd just be me. I just love to do it. And my dad would walk in and be so confused because there's nothing in him that had like that type of musical interest. But then when it came to soccer, like his outlook was what I needed. I had this other thing in me, but like this serious mentality where it's like, do everything you can to be prepared. Like, try to win fitness tests, try to not be too optimistic in every situation. Like, he kind of leveled me out to where I wasn't getting too high in good situations and I wasn't getting too low in bad situations. And that came from, he's played in the Olympics, #1 draft pick. He went through his fair share of soccer experiences. And so he was able to walk me through a lot of what I went through, especially throughout the first 5 or 6 years. But then once Matthias came and the whole translator situation was introduced, that was where there was definitely less input that could be helped because he had never experienced something like that.
Yeah. Well, I got to experience that for 6 months with Tata Martino in Atlanta, and it was interesting. and it's interesting that you're able to pick the language up and navigate there. But no, that's cool, man. I played with a lot of guys whose dads were professional players, and a lot of them burnt out. So it's good to see. There's a handful of guys that I think Twellman and Kenny Cooper, Connor Doyle, people come to my mind when I think of that. But not a lot of guys do it. I think they burn out, and as a parent, it kind of I would be more interested to talk to your dad about how he raised his kids to all go on to play at a high level, just because I've seen more guys not do it than do it. So it's a credit to him and a credit to you guys. Speaking of your siblings,
he was 3 for 3 with me and my two brothers. Like Ty got drafted after winning a national championship. Tanner got drafted to Minnesota.
Yeah, and is he still at Indy, Tanner?
No, he's not playing anymore. Now he's working in Chicago.
Okay. Well,
but he might be getting back into coaching pretty soon here, which could be exciting.
Okay. And do you have any desire to coach? I know you work with kids, and do you have any desire to do that? You got a long way to go as a professional, but what are you thinking in terms of coaching?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I keep in close contact with Todd Yeagley and Brian Mazanoff. Mays is now at Ohio State, but they were both at IU together when I was there, and I really enjoy talking to them now, especially that I've had so much experience with so many different coaching staffs. I feel like I have more knowledge to bounce off of, like what they've experienced, what I've experienced. And that's been a shift that's been very educational for me, because then I feel like I'm now able to learn a lot more from them as guys they're guys that are in it, and I would definitely have an interest in doing something like that. And that's what gets me excited for my brother Tanner, because he's such a soccer guy, and he always has been. I think when he steps back into a coaching role, he's going to fall right back in love with it. And I'm excited to hear about his firsthand experience.
So you kind of reference him as a soccer guy, like you're not a soccer guy. Does that mean, where are your priorities? Is it dancing, soccer, or what's your passion? If his is soccer, what's yours?
Yeah, no, I would say I'm definitely a soccer guy too. But yeah, I love music too as well. Like I play some instruments. I like to dance. But I think what was funny about it is like Tanner and Ty, and this is what my dad would tell you, when it came to skills in the soccer camps or in the soccer practices, as a kid, like earlier on, I hated it, right? I hated doing like the core, like the core skills where you're doing like the taps and you go up and back, like all that stuff. I couldn't stand it. But then all of a sudden, like that Jogo Bonito era, all of a sudden it just tapped into me, where then I would do all this random stuff on my own. And that was like more juggling stuff. But then all of a sudden that translated into skills in the game. And then that's where I took off from a skills perspective. But it's funny because my brothers, Ty and Tanner, were always like soccer guys, working hard, where I'm like trying to skip out to go to the bathroom and everything, like trying to make excuses to not have to do that first 30 minutes of skill work. but then my two brothers were just such soccer heads. So it's funny to think about all of our progression through youth soccer to pros.
Yeah. Well, I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and I always thought my brother was one that played above me was better, but I ended up making it and he didn't. So I was also a short, fat kid until like sophomore year of high school. So I was real skillful, and then I got real tall, and I could still see the play that I wanted to do. My body just didn't agree. It would say, no, I'm not doing that. So
yeah, it's tough being the youngest, because you always think that you're struggling because you're playing with your brother's teams, you're playing against your brothers. Like, man, these guys are so good. But then all of a sudden, once you hit that certain age where the physicality of it levels out a bit, you start to see like, oh, okay, this has paid off for the past 10 years.
And when did you hit that one?
That was maybe once I started playing with the Quakes reserves.
Okay.
When I was like 16 or 17, probably 16 was when I started realizing like, wait, this this could be something here. But I was always playing for clubs in Sacramento, like with my dad. I didn't play for the academy in Sacramento, because I like my dad's coach. I wasn't too occupied with the academies were in their infancy at that time. I wasn't too occupied with that, so we were just kind of in our little incubator, developing. And then all of a sudden, just once I hit that moment where I got a little bit faster, got a little bit bigger, it was just like, now I'm living with Corey Stevenson in San Jose.
Yeah, and speaking of big guys, holy crap.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I'll throw it back. You brought up dancing. You're great in terms of putting stuff out from. I think there's videos of you dancing in London on the street, and there's looks like a lip sync battle or some kind of competition as a kid that you won, which I think you won money in high school, which I'm pretty sure is an NCAA violation of some kind. But tell me about the dancing. I watch you dance, and my knees start to hurt just watching it. And I'm wondering how your body even. I'm more worried about you hurting yourself dancing than I am you playing soccer at this point.
Yeah, I had to stop the style of dancing. It's definitely shifted a lot with like some of the stuff I was doing in high school. I look back at those videos, I'm like, man, I don't know what I was thinking. I look at my dad, I'm like, Dad, why didn't you tell me to stop doing at least that move where I'm like falling on the ground all the time? But no, it's been fun. I just, like I said, it's something I fell in love with. It's the same type of thing with the skills and the around the world and all that it just clicked with me. And just at 11 or 12 years old, I remember going to like my first 7th grade dance. And there's always like a couple kids who are really good at dancing, even at that age. And I remember seeing them like inside the dance circle, right? And I'm in 7th grade. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I remember feeling like insecure about my own body movements. And then I look at guys who are so confident and secure in what they're doing. And at that point, as a 7th grader, I'm like, all right, I got to figure this out because I want to be able to do what they're doing for the rest of my life. And then from that point on, I mean, it took a while, but now I would say I'm comfortable with music.
Would you say you're in the top echelon of dancers in MLS?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm still waiting for someone to do my 2C slide challenge.
Yeah. I see you're doing the challenges. I mean, I think like my kids, they're all about TikTok, man, and the challenges all over TikTok. And I don't even know how to work that thing, so I couldn't even. I probably should have looked up to see if you're even on there. But I think that's the way to go if you're going to do it is the TikTok challenges.
Oh, but I'm talking about MLS players. I'm trying to get some of the MLS guys on the 2C.
I know, but I mean that's the thing is, and this is what I say. I was going to wrap it up, but you got me going. A guy like you that, I talk to people in the league all the time about this. I say that they do, no offense to the league, but they do a poor job of marketing guys. And you're a perfect example. A lot of the stuff you're doing on your own. I mean, heck, you had your coach doing his idea, doing the IG live. Like you guys there are guys around the league. Every team has these guys that are just so eclectic and unique. And I think we're lucky. We're lucky that you're who you are and you're comfortable in your own skin like you just talked about. But 2, we're lucky that you have a coach now that's embracing that and pushing it, because that's been the biggest problem over the years was guys had these skills and these things that were very marketable, but the coaches would suppress it, right? And I understand why on some level, right? It's like if you're great at something and you're posting videos and then you go out and you lay a dud in the game, right. People are going to say Tommy's too focused on his dance career.
Right, exactly.
He's not focused enough on the game. But then there's guys on your team that are playing Fortnite for 17 hours a day, and their eyes are bleeding. And,
oh my God!
They come in and lay an egg, but because they're not putting it out on the internet, people are just like, oh well, he just had a bad day. So, oh
my gosh, I could write a book on everything that you just addressed. For sure, like that type of stuff can get stomped out of you, whether it's from coaches, whether it's from the media, or whether it's from players in your own locker room. It could, or fans, whatever. It could be coming from anywhere, and that's what cracks me up about it. Because 100%. I understand. Like, everyone's going to have bad games. I'm going to have a bad game. Someone else is going to have a bad game. But like you said, I think about guys who are doing absolutely nothing, and then all of a sudden guys aren't going to throw stuff back from their past at them, you know? And the way I see it is like guys in the workforce. Like, if guys in the workforce are working and then they have a bad week or a bad couple months of performance, whatever it happens to be, it's not like, oh, that guy's got a hobby. Like, that's the reason why he's struggling, you know? Or say someone has a baby. Obviously, a baby takes up a lot of energy. Say like a teammate has a baby.
But that's
that guy had a baby.
But that's acceptable. That's acceptable drama as opposed to But
then it's like, okay, if I don't want, I mean, this could be, maybe this is a little bit radical, but it's like, okay, I'm young. I don't want to have a baby. I'm going to spend the exact same amount of time that it needs on a hobby. And obviously a baby's more than a hobby. But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty crazy point. But what I'm saying is that there's these guys who are young before they have a family. They have all kinds of time. And if they don't use it productively, they're safe from this criticism. But all of a sudden, if they start doing other things, it can just, if it's not soccer, it could just get thrown at you. And even if it is soccer, if it is skills, then they'll get thrown at you as well. So, I mean, it's a funny world we live in, but I mean, it's just something you have to deal with. I'm not complaining. I've been
no, I think you're doing it the right way, you know, and you got to have thick skin. I think, like I said, it goes back to maybe the way you came in at a young age. You learned a lot, you know, and you've kind of withstood some coaches. You've had a lot of coaches, and you've seen you're still here, right? And they're not. So take that for what it's worth. But you know, I hope that you continue to do you, because I think you will become more successful on the field. You know, I think you've been great up till now, but you know, maybe more successful in the eyes of people that quantify stats, you know, depending on if you're going to stay playing outside back or midfield or forward. You know, I think for me, it's more about contributing and making those guys around you better. It sounds like you're doing that both on and off the field. So I just hope that in the good times and the bad times, guys like you continue to push the narrative of, hey, I'm more than a soccer player. You know, I'm a personality. I'm a human. And, you know, people that see that, I think they love it. Me personally, I love it. And I think that the fans do. It's just, like I say, you get some quarterbacks on the couches that don't, and that can ruin it for a lot of people. But I think we're in a kind of a new era, and I'm hoping that you're one of these guys that leads the way into that new era, and it allows more guys to show their personality in the locker room.
You're absolutely right. And you just said it perfectly. That's actually when I started to come to these conclusions, I guess you could call it like somewhat of an epiphany. That's exactly what I told myself, is like, I am more than a soccer player. Because I would quite literally have people telling me, like, why are you dancing? Or like, why are you playing piano? I've even had people say, like, why are you learning Spanish? Like, you're a soccer player. You need, I mean, the Spanish one was less common, obviously, because that's pretty hard to criticize. But still, people found a way to criticize.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I'm a soccer player, but I'm more than that. People at their jobs are encouraged to have hobbies. But for some reason, as professional athletes, if I'm playing the piano on Instagram, it's like, oh, at 7 p.m. on a Thursday, he should be doing something involving soccer. Otherwise, if he loses that game on Saturday, that is why, because he's playing piano.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just this crazy mindset that is within the industry and the people looking at the industry as well. So, I mean, it's just something you got to deal with, but I mean, it's been a fun experience. It's definitely challenging, but I think it's all growth. So I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What you want to plug anything? What are you working on? I know you were, you know, you've been a humanitarian of the year in San Jose, and you're always working. You know, your work with kids is extensive. What, other than anything we haven't brought up, you know, what are you working on charity wise or getting out to the public?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now, like the most topical resource, is that YouTube channel I created it's TomThom11, TomThom11. and it's got like over 100 videos of basically my dad's skill program that he had me and my two brothers do for the last 10, 15 years. And it's the same program that I still do today in order to prepare for that. And it's actually because I'm so motivated to work on my fitness, because I'm not just running laps, I'm running with the ball. So I can feel my skills improving as well as my endurance. And Shea Salinas was actually doing something that was taught on the videos called The Series. He just sent me a video of him doing it this morning, which got me fired up. I'm like, man, even pros are learning from these YouTube videos. Like this could be a really cool thing. And so we created the whole channel. It's all public. And over the last 2 weeks, it's gone from 8 subscribers to like 640. And then it's gone from like 500 views to like 60,000. And so it's something that a lot of clubs are using and a lot of kids are benefiting from. So I'm just trying to get the word out there. So more people, if they need ideas on something that they could do in their front yard or their garage, it's up there.
Well, that's awesome, man. And, I'm sure we'll plug that not only here, but you get the PA to plug that on all social channels. Where can we find you on social media? I know your Instagram, he's always with his shirt off, or dancing. What about, Twitter? Tell us your handle so people know where to find you.
Yeah. So if you're looking for me on anything, it's all at TomThom11, TOMTHOM 11. That's Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok now. Working on that one.
There you go. The TikTok, man. My kids are gonna know you before you know it, man. They'll be following you, and that's one of the acceptable ones.
Yeah, I actually just got a text from the. Have you heard of the Players Tribune?
Yeah.
They just one of the guys there just texted me saying they want to use the 2C slide on their TikTok.
There you
go. There you go. TikTok's got power.
Oh, it's a big one nowadays. So
we'll see what happens.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think appreciate having you on. We're all affected by this coronavirus stuff, and me personally, I lost my father this week, and I stayed up last night, like watching your channels for a couple hours, and you got a great smile and you got a great energy, and I think guys like you are really good for what's going on. So if we can plug you, get you more out there, I think it's awesome. And, when the time is right, get back out there and ball on the field. But in the meantime, man, just keep doing you, and guys like me really appreciate it.
Well, I'm really sorry, man. I'm really glad that it brought some happiness, because that's exactly what we're trying to do. That's what my dad and I were trying to do, and that's what Matthias wanted to do with the IG Live yesterday. Is he wants to find a way to bring some type of joy in this difficult time right now. I mean, everyone's been affected in one way or the other, and so that's what we're trying to do. That's the mission, and I'm glad it had a positive effect on you.
It's awesome, man. So keep doing you, and you got a fan here in Houston, and keep keeping on, and we'll see you when you come to town, when you guys finally resume playing.
All right, that sounds good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Bobby.
Thanks, brother.